Welcome to News for the Food Lover. My name is Dane Richards. I'm the publisher and chief judge at News for the Food Lover, and I've got the pleasure today of having Brian Steel and Jeremy Ryland with me. It's always good to catch up with these gentlemen, and with COVID, it's prevented that over the last year, but now things have eased up. We thought it's a great opportunity to talk about things that are happening in the food world, how COVID's affected the landscape, and talk about the art and craft of food criticism. Now, in recent this last year, COVID-19 has changed all our lives inexorably. And one of the it's interesting because one of the things was people said, well, what does a food critic do during COVID-19? Because basically, we would be literally, eating potentially, maybe 4-5 times a week, and then, all of a sudden, we had all this time on our hands. But and I'll ask you personally how you did it. For me, it was a great time of self-reflection and to have a good think about the industry and what the core values of the industry was, and about the whole context of what reviewing might be after COVID, which we'll talk about. But Brian, what did you do during COVID-19?
Well, I'm privileged in that my day job is different to being a restaurant critic across various genres, and so I was lucky that I continued to be employed, which also allowed me to support restaurants that were exploring different ways to keep the business open. For example, either go and get the food and take it home, or go and get the food and take it home and finish it off. And so I tried to stay engaged with restaurateurs and with chefs, and obviously just to get involved in discussions and help out if there was any concepts or any design or any ideas that I could perhaps value add to, because I was in a position where I could still maintain my relationships, and because I was obviously reflecting on what I did with my thesis, but understanding the industry. I mean, in Sydney especially, it's if you think about the standards, rents are high, margins are small. So if you think you have an industry that pre-COVID, the standard profit margins you're looking at is kind of 5% if you're lucky.
Yeah.
The normal business model of 20% is just almost impossible. So if you take that and then overlay that with everything that happened in COVID in terms of restrictions, not just lockdown, but then opening up with one person per square metre, or one person per 4 square metres, you realise that many restaurants didn't reopen because it just wasn't worth it. Because they knew that it was a loss leader. They were just going to be losing money just faster than if they'd actually stayed closed. So it was obviously I was interested, and I stayed engaged as much as I could, and it was fascinating to see the innovation and also the collaboration. Some of the most incredible stories in that some chefs in some of the more stable restaurants then started to continue cooking in the restaurants, and they were cooking to feed all the restaurant workers who were out of a job.
Temporary visa.
Yeah, exactly, temporary visa. So suddenly restaurants became dining rooms for all the staff. I mean, that reflects on what you mentioned earlier about this, this coming together and this supportive element of the restaurant industry, where it's there's that deep empathy to what people do for a living and how hard they work and how delicate their lifestyle is, that can be influenced by something. And this was non-linear for COVID. So it's fascinating to see the necessity being the mother of invention going on steroids in the restaurant industry, where some of the things that happened were both altruistic in the extreme, innovative in an impressive way, and it was just a great test of the personality and the character of the industry, in that when you are at your worst, that's where your true character comes out. And the character that came out was one of care and empathy and involvement and a coming together of support, which was really impressive to watch.
It's interesting because when often we get when I was trying to mentor young reviewers, one of the things I do say to them, that when you walk in the door of a restaurant, be a bit mindful, be a bit caring. There's potentially someone's mortgage attached to this business.
Absolutely.
There's massive investments. There's relationships involved, and it's not the fact of you that affects your scoring. But look at all perspectives. Try and understand the context of what may happen that evening, and I think COVID may have even accentuated that a little more. It's actually made us respect, as you said, how delicate that almost like that ecosystem is, and how fragile the industry is balanced. And and probably without JobKeeper, that basically kept Melbourne going to a degree, and we've got that about to see shortly. But very interesting about that. I don't know about yourself, but I'll get to Jeremy here. I missed reviewing, actually, Jeremy. I really did, and I just recently wrote a review last week, and I didn't realise how much joy it brought me. And someone who I knew I did food criticism said, "Oh, you must go and really enjoy going in and tearing a restaurant apart." I said the exact opposite. I said, we want to see a restaurant at its best.
Yep.
I take no joy out of seeing a restaurant not have a good evening. You like to the experience to not only be good for you, but everyone else in the restaurant. And so tell me about, firstly, what you did during COVID-19 as a senior food reviewer. Some observations you saw about Brian Lent about how the industry coped during that period, and
I think one of the comments made, we have a responsibility to the industry. Without restaurants, there's no reviews. So if we kill them all off, obviously there's not going to be any reviews. But we do have a responsibility. They are businesses, and reviews can make or break restaurants. And I think it was good that most of the professional groups, like Michelin, Good Food Guide, Guardio, etc., they actually suspended reviewing during the time that it was there, and they suspended things. Even Jay Rainier at the London Times refused to do negative reviews. They're used to doing it because of London doesn't have any defamation laws. But I think the industry started coming together a lot better, and I spent a lot of time talking to chefs. I did some interviews with them, which we published, but there were some amazing stories of people pivoting really, really quickly and doing businesses, as you say, with the charities as well. But one big, very fine dining restaurant in Brisbane, he literally closed his restaurant on the Sunday, and on Monday used his commissary to start making takeout. And he was producing high-end, high-quality takeout meals, and he was doing about 1,000 a day. And his sommelier and all the frontline staff were delivering. So he was able to keep all his staff employed during that period of time. And there are many stories like that with people who have managed to stay afloat by just redoing their model, basically. They're there to provide food for the general public, good quality food, and they could find different ways of doing it, which I think is magnificent. But yeah, look, it's tough when it's been a tough time. It's a tough industry anyway. I think there were probably a few too many restaurants prior to COVID in this country. There were, one restaurant for every 320 people or something. So I think whilst it's sad, we'll lose some of the less good ones, but I think the better ones have all survived, and they'll come through it better, and because the restaurant industry has always been innovative, they'll find ways.